Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and we have a lot to talk about today. A hell of a lot to talk about today, considering I thought it was going to be a quiet Wednesday afternoon. But after Celtic dropped points at Dens Park last night, it was never going to be a quiet day, was it? A lot of conversations have opened up online about last night's performance and certain players at the club. We've also got news surrounding Kyogo and another side who are interested in bringing him in this January window after everything calmed down, it looked like. So, busy day. Bear with me. We're going to try and cover all of it. Hello, and if you haven't already, you know what to do. Hit like and subscribe. The support so far in 2025 has been absolutely sensational. It has surpassed every expectation I had to open the new year, so let's keep that up. Let's keep the momentum going. Go down below, hit both those buttons. It's absolutely free. It keeps you up to date with what's going on at Celtic, and trust me, there's a lot to keep you up to date on today. A lot of conversations, a lot of news. We're going to talk about Kyogo, Daniel Cummings last night dropping points in Dundee. We're going to try and do it in a timely fashion though. I don't want to be here all day, so let's cut to the chase. Kyogo has yet again been linked with a move away from Celtic this January transfer window. It comes after a month of rapid stories linking him with a move to America. Of course, the Atlanta United article, which got everybody talking, links over the continent, and now, according to L'Equipe in France, a move to Rennes, because these were the headlines coming out of France in the last hour at time of recording, that Kyogo is on the radar for French side Rennes, who are struggling this season and apparently have some admirers at the club of Kyogo. So, first reported by L'Equipe not too long ago, that was this afternoon, saying that Rennes are looking at Kyogo, would be interested in signing Kyogo. It was then backed up by a second French publication, who I have never heard of, to be fair, called Hui France. Don't know if that's pronounced right. I can't speak French. Who said that Kyogo is a target for Stade Rennes in this transfer window. And apparently, according to them anyway, they've gone as far to say that discussions have been established between the two parties. So one publication, L'Equipe, that far more reliable than the other, saying that there is interest, that they're admirers, or there are certain admirers at the club. The other publication saying that discussions have already took place between both parties. Oh, we're in for a fun week with this one, I tell you that. So if you dig deep enough into these articles, you'll find out that the information is essentially the same. Jorge Sampaoli, who is the manager of Rennes at the minute, is a big fan of Kyogo and would like to sign him. However, sporting director Frederic Massara sees things slightly differently and isn't keen to pay the £10 million that Celtic reportedly demand for Kyogo. This is the same £10 million that we heard quoted with the Atlanta United interest. We heard that it would take £10 million for Atlanta United to sign him from us. That number has stayed consistent in these reports. And apparently, sporting director, not so keen. Manager of Rennes, very keen. They need a striker right now as they kind of float to the bottom of the table. I say float, sink to the bottom of the table. They are fighting relegation playoff spots in France at the minute, and they need goals. They need hard workers. Hence the reason Jorge Sampaoli, manager of Rennes, really wants Kyogo. And I know what you're thinking. I know that there's a player at Rennes who stands out amongst all of this, and trust me, journalists have already started putting two and two together. It's not taking long. Headlines already suggesting, this was the Daily Records for example, already suggesting that there could be an ambitious Kyogo and Jota swap deal on the cards should this have any legitimacy behind it. And this is why I just cannot be bothered with all of this. Because I knew, as soon as I read that Rennes were apparently interested in Kyogo, that the first thing people were going to write is potential Kyogo and the Jota swap deal on the cards. And now that's going to occupy the Celtic social space for the next fortnight until this window shuts. Is there a possibility of it happening? Please, as always, just don't get your hopes up. I can't help but reiterate the point that I don't see Kyogo leaving in this transfer window. I think we can come back to Brendan Rodgers' comments last week in the situation where he said that Kyogo is happy here and that he's training hard, playing well, that he has no intentions of seeing him go basically in this window. Now, he did also say in that same topic of conversation after that line of questioning that he doesn't want to keep players around who don't want to be here, and obviously there's been a lot of sort of theories flowing around that Kyogo doesn't want to be here. So this is going to be an interesting one to watch develop over the next week or so. I genuinely think, and if you have to ask, this is the reason I do Celtic Transfer Talk, to give my opinion on whether or not I think something's going to happen. If you were to ask me right now, do I see anything coming from all of this? No, I don't. I don't see anything happening from it. So that's why I say calm down. I don't think Jota's going to return. And I don't think Kyogo's going to leave. I just don't think Celtic are in a position right now where they can afford to let Kyogo leave. And with the Champions League football right round the corner, to keep your talisman here is probably of paramount importance. Especially when your other striker, Adamida, is hardly scoring goals, is he? I mean, he's gone 12 games now without scoring. You can't afford to let Kyogo go. And with the injury issues that we've had, Dyson Maeda and Nicholas Kuhn, we've seen him play sort of on the wings and doing different jobs. If we didn't have Kyogo, we'd be really struggling right now. So I just don't see it happening. I think there's a whole lot of nothing from all of this, but it is interesting to see publications as big as L'Equipe actually reporting on it. Another story to keep your eye on over the next couple of weeks is to do with the future of Daniel Cummings, of course, Celtic B-team player who has been tearing it up this season. He's been fantastic to the point where many people want to see him get a chance in the first team. Alas, that hasn't happened, and his Celtic future is looking non-existent because Fabrizio Romano reported this afternoon that West Ham and Brighton are both keen on signing Daniel Cummings, with Celtic pushing for him to stay and trying to sign him on a new deal. 24 goals in 24 games this season for Cummings, however, out of contract in the summer of 2025. So, bringing up that age-old conversation about how Celtic aren't doing a good job at breathing new life into the Celtic team. They aren't bringing people through from the youth academy, and now scrambling at the last minute to try and keep one of the brightest prospects from our academy. And that has obviously raised a lot of debate online. Let me cut to the chase here. If I was an advisor to Daniel Cummings, if I was his agent, I wouldn't be telling him to sign a contract at Celtic. I wouldn't be. Why would I? And I would love to see him sign a contract. I'd love to see him stay and get opportunities. I just don't think it's going to happen. And because of that, I would be saying, try your luck going down to a Brighton or a West Ham. Try your luck doing that and instead of staying at Celtic and never seeing a minute of game time. Because it feels like we just don't bring players through. And I do believe 9 times out of 10 there's a reason for that. And 9 times out of 10 I think it's because some of them just aren't good enough. And I've been very vocal about that in the past. I've always said that this is a Scotland problem, not a Celtic problem. The fact that we're not producing good enough talents isn't just a Celtic thing, it's happening all over. And I think that it's a lot more deep-rooted than just what's happening at Celtic's Youth Academy. However, there's exceptions, and there's clearly players who should be given an opportunity, and I think Daniel Cummings is looking like one of them. Somebody who probably does deserve a chance or two, but he's not getting it. So I wouldn't be surprised if he accepts a move to West Ham or Brighton. I would be stunned if Daniel Cummings commits his future to Celtic. Now, I'm glad to hear that we are putting a deal on the table. We're trying to re-sign him. It's not just a case of putting our hands up and letting him go because we've accepted defeat to these Premier League sides. But I would just be stunned if he chose us over them. Probably get better money, probably get better opportunities. And that's not to say that he's going to go down and suddenly walk into the Brighton or West Ham team, because that is also unlikely. But clearly Brighton and West Ham are clubs that have better pathways, so he might get a loan move to a League One side or something in England, but there's a chance that he'll come into a Brighton side in the next couple of years and play football, whereas at Celtic, probably just going to spend money and sign someone better, or better I should say, because we can't realistically judge where he's at because he's not played in the first team. So really strange situation once again. It looks like another youth talent that we're going to let slip through our fingers. And we'll never know if it's for better or worse until he starts playing senior football. You know, it might be one of those ones that in a few years we go, oh, he wasn't that good anyway. But it might be one we come back and really regret. So, weird situation. Romano seems to suggest that he could be on the move. we'll wait and see what happens. So that was the two big transfer topics of the afternoon. As I said, we'll need to watch how both develop. But, a lot of fallout from last night's game, and mostly negative fallout from last night's game after Celtic dropped points up in Dundee. Here is the Scottish Premiership table after match day 23 for us, still top of the league by 16 points. If Rangers win tonight, obviously that goes down to 13. A very good position to be in, a commanding position to be in, and I can't help but reiterate the fact that with 15 games left of the season, we've won the league. The league is over, and I'm not scared to say that out loud. But, disappointing to drop points last night. A lot of sort of questioning of certain players and the manager after last night's performance. And rightly so. It wasn't good enough. Brendan Rodgers was very vocal about that, which I'm glad to see him say, but it's now time for him to act on that. But he was, a lot of conversation about the likes of Callum McGregor, of course, Austin Trusty, who was at fault last night for the third goal in particular. Yeah, I hate it when we drop points because it feels like it's the end of the world sometimes. What I'll say is last night wasn't good enough and it deserves to be criticised. There's no point in sitting back and pretending like nothing's up at the minute. Celtic have been a little bit off the boil, I'd say, for the last month since the League Cup final, perhaps, and that is slightly concerning. But at the end of the day, we've won 3 of our last 5. Last night, if we took our chances, we would have won the game. It's not going to be a walk in the park all the time, and I honestly, I can't wait for the day when, and it might be in 50 years' time, who knows, I hope it's never, but it might be in 50 years' time, it might be next year. I can't wait for the day where, I don't know, Rangers get some investment and they can finally challenge again, and I can't wait to see what our reactions are going to be like as supporters when there's suddenly a challenge back at the top of the table, because it's going to be a pandemonium, to be quite frank. But listen, there is room for criticism. Obviously, you need to criticise elements of performances, and you always want to strive to be better, especially better than your last game, and Celtic in recent times haven't necessarily been better than the last game. We've sort of been stale, intensity's gone, and I don't know if that's because of fixture build-up or teams have maybe sussed this out a wee bit. But yeah, there's definitely room for criticism. Brendan Rodgers openly criticised Austin Trusty last night in his press conference. He said this, that you've got to stay on your feet. It's as simple as that. You're 6'4". You've got to deal with that better. But he knows that. He understands that. But what I'm saying is, across certain bits of the game, we went a bit soft. And I feel like that's been the major criticism of Celtic in recent weeks, that we have been a little bit soft. And it's not what you want to see ahead of a huge European game against Young Boys next week. And somebody who has bore the majority of that criticism, I'd say today, is Callum McGregor, of all people, the captain of the side. He has been called into major questioning from a lot of Celtic supporters online because of how soft he's been in recent weeks, which is a strange one, but I can get where people are coming from. I will be perfectly honest. Callum McGregor hasn't been good enough in recent weeks. He hasn't been, and I think he'll know that himself, because he's set the bar over recent years. He's been Celtic's Mr. Consistent for the best part of the last decade. I love him. He's a great captain, great leader, and I don't doubt his ability by any stretch, and I don't think he's done like some people suggest. Players will go through patches of form which aren't their best, and it's not calls for him to be dropped or whatnot, but maybe he is in need of a little bit of a rest. People are saying, that game he was rested a few weeks ago at Celtic Park. Some of the best football we'd seen in this recent stage of the season. And maybe there is a call for him to be rested a little bit there, but he's so good, and I don't doubt that he'll bring back that form we know and love. I mean, it was only at the start of the season when we were talking about Callum McGregor playing some of his best football as a Celtic player, and I think it's one of those conversations that shows how fickle and reactionary a support we can be at times, because going from your best to your worst is such an extreme. And that's where people are with McGregor, because at the start of the season he was scoring goals. Remember, he was top scorer in the league, and people were talking about how he looked his best, and then suddenly now he's terrible and needs to be dropped and shouldn't be anywhere near the Celtic team. That's the highs and lows of being a Celtic supporter, and it makes no logical sense. I think that some of the criticism is completely unwarranted, and I don't mean that doesn't mean he's immune from criticism. He obviously should be criticised when he has a bad game, but some of it is completely over the top, and you've got to remember what this lad has done for us, and not only recent years, but recent months. Undefeated in cup finals as a Celtic player alone is unbelievable. 23 trophies, I think he's won, and that is just sensational. You know, he will get back to his best. I don't doubt that for a moment. It's obviously just a wee rough patch for the team right now if you look at it, the performances alone. But still, 16 points clear at the top of the league. Not a bad position to be in. And I know there will be a couple of people down in the comments who are saying, oh, this is Happy Clapper Ryan coming out. It's not Happy Clapper Ryan. I can just look at things in the wider context of things and admit that we're in a very good place right now. And if this is the things that we're moaning about, it's because we're desperate for a moan. Really, you're going to drop points from time to time. Even in the Invincible season, we dropped points. You know, and it's just natural. It's part of football. I remember I was coming home from one of the games at Celtic Park a few months ago, and there was a Celtic fan on Clyde One talking about how they left at half time because there's no competition in the league anymore. That's the kind of, you can't win because there's people that go on about, oh, there's no competition, it's too easy, and then there's people that moan when there is competition. It's a strange thing at times being a Celtic supporter, but we're in good hands. I'm sure we'll come back, but we do need to see vast improvement on Saturday before this Young Boys game, and we really need a good performance just to bring some I don't know, a bit of positivity back into the Celtic support. And I don't think it's a negative place by any stretch. I think that would be a complete exaggeration by myself to say that we're lacking positivity. But it's just after games like that last night, I think we all get a bit down on ourselves. We doubt Celtic too much. We doubt the team. We doubt the manager. And we shouldn't, because there's a reason we've won a cup this season. There's a reason we're in very good contention with a 92% chance of progressing to the next round of the Champions League. There's a reason we won the League Cup, because we are a really good team at the minute. So don't get too down on it all. Calm down a wee bit. We will get better. Rodgers has said that he needs better from last night. I'm expecting we'll see that. Right, this video has gone on far too long. It's getting to an unwatchable length. Our brains have been rotted by the TikTok algorithms. Our attention spans are gone. So I don't want you turning off 10 seconds in. So I better wrap it up. Like and subscribe. I appreciate all of you. Take care, and I'll see you all next time.